17. I stood in the dark and cold, and I had pulled my scarf down to my chin, so I could watch as my breath puffled in the air. To my back was Central Park, a looming black void with the lights of the west side peeking out through the trees, and in front of me was the Arch residence, home of Nathan Arch, Steele, Magdiv, Vester, and Backer. In the party hose, I was raising in my stockings and a kitten heels. Mother's dress was pretty and simple, sleeveless black silk tea dress that puffed out nicely just below my knees, thanks to old yellow line. Covered by my wool coat, I still feel like I was wearing particularly nothing in the winter weather. For some reason, I wasn't ready to go inside yet. I'd never been to the house in Manhattan. The city was made of the towers, like the toy blocks I played with as a child. To be honest, I really hadn't visited anyone's home on the island, just on my little world. But of course, it was quite obvious that everyone on the island lived in the sky, especially in the evenings. You could see the lights glowing from all the windows and salutes, and the people living there passing by, all kinds of people in the same building, all with different hopes and dreams and day-to-day business. I thought it was marvelous, but a proper house. Not until that moment, staring up the 6-story structure before me, I could hardly imagine all this space could be for one family alone. It seemed grand, but also a little sad, a little too empty. I imagined and wondered as if it was possible to go on full day in there, not see another person. I stood in a deep breath, climbing the steps to a large door, early decorated with a cornucopia of harvest time fruits. Carved around its border, I saw a large door knocker in the center, but to the right there was a bell. I chose the bell almost exactly as I withdrew my finger. The door was opened by a tall man with white hair wearing a tuxedo. "Oh, are you the butler?" I said, not really thinking. How thrilling. I never met a butler before. He looked at me, and had I been beneath him, he was very much would roll his eyes at me. It would have been fine. It was some kind of outburst to say. Music and laughter flowing over the transept to greet me, and I tried to look beyond his shoulder into the home. Finally, he moved to the side to let me pass. I stepped into the water-grilling entrance. "Thank you," I said, but barely managed to escape my lips before stunned silence overtook me. I didn't want to disgrace the space within the scripture of foyer, for it was far grander than that. I had entered the massive room with a marble tiled floor, which danced thousands of sparkles reflecting the marvelous chandelier hanging from the ceiling above. It rose above my head at least 2 stories, if not more, just as a wide marble staircase before me did, taking in 2 directions. At the top landing, at its peak, hang the largest painting I ever seen, the size possibly of someone's living room, or at least mine. It was some kind of king or noble warrior wearing swipes of fabric blowing in the wind. As he held the sword of road, his full presence at his feet, it was like a picture full of movement and motion, as I found it fascinating that the 2-dimensional image could evoke such easy feeling. Joey was working so hard to create all different dimensions. Perhaps I wondered, it wasn't altogether necessary, but of course, no, it was necessary for only the need to experiment and see to discover. Still, I marveled, and that wasn't all, because before me, right where I was standing, just before the streets, there was a fountain, an actual working fountain inside, like something you'll see in the park, with the 3 iron large bowls on top of the other, carved stone and angels looking up where the water exploded on the top. 2 very dressed people rushed by then. A man and a woman. He's in a tux. She was in a long blue gown. I felt the cold on my ankles. I realized that I assumed was a cocktail party. Indeed was not. My cheeks burned, but I couldn't let the embarrassment ruin this moment. Even I had known it was a black tie, I certainly would have been able to dress for it. I would have come as I had, or not at all. And despite my nerves, dear, I was glad I had come. "Beautiful room," I said. "Really structure, order, one of few remaining jewels of the Glennon age so thoughtfully taken care of," replied the butler. He seemed pleased with my reaction, and indeed looked at the grand entranceway with a personal pride as had been done the restructure himself. "How wonderful," I said, and he nodded. "It is. Come, miss, the party's in the drawing room." "A drawing room? How marvelous!" I followed him across the entranceway, along the same path as a pretty couple, down the short hallway on which hung another huge painting, this time a portrait of the man with the kind eyes, and the boy, perhaps his son. The boy looked right at me as he could read my innermost thoughts. How unnerving, but impressive. again what a good artist can do with a little bit of paint. We arrived then at the party, another giant space. It was decorated in soft greens and blues. The walls sparkled in the light of another magnificent chandelier. I noticed the pale parsley wallpaper has now some sort of stain and dreads within it. A carved white marble fireplace the side of the car stood on the opposite wall. It burnt brightly so that the room was very hot, but a good many people added that. Such beautiful people, all the beautifully dressed and laughing and eating finger food, being passed around the silver trays by beautifully dressed staff. I looked to see if I could spot Evan. I wondered if this too was wearing a tux. "May I take your coat?" asked the butler. I nodded. Still staring, gasping if I was honest, I quickly unbuttoned my winter coat. It was very elegantly helped me step out of it. I felt a little childish in my mother's tea dress, but I kept a smile on my face and thanked the butler as he left. "Champagne?" asked the waiter, materializing beside me. "Oh, no thank you," I said through the cooling glasses filled to brim with golden bubbles that looked like very tempting. "There she is," said the moving Joy. I felt suddenly so much more at ease. He emerged from the crowd, dressed in perfectly tailored tux, beaming behind me, beeline right for me. "Hi, Joey," I said as he arrived. "You look stunning, just stunning," he said. It really did seem he meant it. "Oh no, nothing like your other guests. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was a black tie." I nervously assumed my skirt. Let me tell you a little secret," he said, linking his arm through mine in such familiar fashion I almost felt a little shy, turning to face the room in the same direction as I was. "The more ever you can see in a sample, the cheaper it is. I didn't really understand. He gave a nod at the woman in the purple dress covering what looked like diamonds. "What do you say? I say that dress is worth the half the value of what she's wearing." He indicated the woman beside her with the simple black green velvet gown. "Oh," I said. I still didn't understand his point. "Those who show up to parties overdressed, in my opinion, have been far worse social blunders than the elegant young woman in the classic little black dress. You overshine everyone because you don't care." He glanced at me. It was comforting and kind of him to say, "But I do care." Joey laughed. "Well, everyone does. It's all about the appearance of not caring. The illusion, my dear, the illusion." I smiled, and then again all I felt was a little confused. I suppose he was trying to make me feel a little better, and he had a way, and yet that purple dress still looked very spectacular to me. "Come, I want to introduce you to someone very special, and who you already know in the way," he said. He gave my arm a little tug. I followed, pulled toward the white baby grand piano nested perfectly in a large bay window, but where a professional pianist was playing the way he looked tonight. Leaning up against it, perfectly within the dip, was one of the most beautiful women I ever seen, wearing a sleeveless, flowing white gown made entirely sparkles. Sweetened herself, of course, but looked like the stardust, or had been made of the diamonds themselves. She wore the white elbow-length gloves, and held only onto the glass of champagne as she sang softly along with the song. Loud enough that I could hear her perfect voice, but not so loudly that she was condemning writing. The tension in the room. A small crowd had gathered nonetheless, and when she finished as we arrived, repeatedly applauded while she beamed her gratitude in return. "Allison, my angel, meet my newest employee, Rose," said Joey. He enlarged his arm from mine, gave me the tiniest pushes in her direction. Not that I needed that. I was drawn to her like a magnet. "Rose, what a pretty name," she said, switching her glass to her left hand, extending her right. I took it, and we held hands for a moment. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "And of course you know who Allison is?" asked Joey. I smiled and nodded, but I had to admit I had absolutely no idea. But I didn't want to let him down or insult the stunning woman in front of me. Allison smiled brightly. "Now, I need to find Nathan. You two get to know each other. He ordered and spun his heel march off. He has this way of making you feel like the center of the world one moment, and next you disappear in a puff of smoke," said Allison as we watched him go. I turned to her. "I'm fine," I said. "Of course you are," she said. "I'm Allison Pendle, by the way. I'm the voice of Alice Angel." Of course, that was it. I knew I recognized her from something. How embarrassing. Incredibly so, since she knew I hadn't remembered her. "I'm so sorry," I said, as a waiter passed with some crackers and a pile of tiny black balls on them. I grabbed one hastily. "I do recognize you now. Of Of course, you're wonderful. I had the incontinent changes everything. Besides, it doesn't help me to do all done up like this. I didn't feel entirely like myself in any way tonight. But Joey insists I go all out. I feel like I might have overdone the white. Oh no, it's perfect, very glamorous. I said, surprised as she felt at all uneasy. She smiled almost a little sadly. Well, that's the job, I guess. Being glamorous and performing for the guests, even when you're supposed to be one. You'll always expect to be one as an actor. That didn't sound like that much fun. Do you ever get to enjoy parties? Depends on the party. I do wish we allowed Tom to come, but, well, absolutely not. Still, it helps you have a friend with you. Oh yes, I understand that. Where is Evan? I wondered. Well, we should be each other's friends tonight, then. She smiled so warmly at me that any lurking cold from outside I was feeling disappear in an instant. Are you going to eat that? She nodded at the cracker that I was holding awkwardly in my hand. Yes, I am. I took a bite. It was deliciously salty. What is this? I asked it. Caviar. You either love it or hate it. I could take it you are the former. Definitely the former. So this is caviar. That was the naturally all person's food. Everyone had heard of caviar, but here I actually tasting it. This is Nathan's house, right? I asked after brushing the crumbs of my tiny napkin that had come with it. I pulled it in my hand and then looked for a place to put it. There was no place to put it. I just held on to it. Yes, a very successful businessman. Old friend of Joey's. He's probably the biggest sponsor of the new show, she replied, taking a sip of the champagne. That's nice of him. I said, yes, to have such friends, she said with a smile. A waiter passed just then. She placed the empty glass up straight and vanished. Before I could think disposing my napkin likewise, I squeezed it harder to my hand. I was feeling a little very awkward. What is it like to be famous? I asked it. Well, that's a very thing to say. But Allison gave the question due consideration, which hadn't been necessary to make me feel a little less stupid. I don't think that I am. I suppose it's lovely when people recognize me for any of my work, not just spending. It's just wonderful to know you've done something that lasts in the world. That has the real impact. I nodded enthusiastically. Yes, that had been the best part, knowing you had some kind of difference, like how I was helping change the face of television. I didn't need to be famous for it. Knowing something had been part of had changed the lives of others was a thrilling idea. What do you think of the new technology? I asked it. Which new technology? He asked it with a smile. The television and the 3D glasses. There was a great deal of technology out there in the world. I suppose spectacularly was a good idea. I do enjoy a good 3D movie. It was so real, she replied. She started sweeping a little to a new song by the pianist was playing, a little medley I did recognize. Me too, but I meant Joey's 3D glasses. I'm not so sure what you mean. I wasn't certain how exactly to explain any better, but I was confused by her confusion. Allison, darling, you said you'd tell me where you got your couch. The famous woman in the purple suddenly appeared between us. Up close, I have a better sense of what Joey meant. There was something a little unrefined about her outfit that then translated gently to her entire appearance. Her rouge was a little too red, her hair was a little too stiff, but I didn't find anything particularly bad about it. Her wanting to put the effort for Joey surely was more of a compliment than anything. Allison gave me a apologetic look, and I nodded back. It was time for her to be on again. I didn't mind the interruption. In fact, I was still feeling perplexed. It was a costume piece, a present for Joey, but I'm sure he could do proceed to designer, she said as they slowly melted away into the crowd together. I squeezed my napkin again. I could feel it falling apart from the sweat in my palm. I had not permitted by thin gloves, and I had no choice but to keep my hand tightly closed or fear I showered everyone in the confetti. I stood there on my own and watched the room. Joey had vanished, and I didn't see anyone I recognized from the office. Evan had not made appearance yet. I was starting to feel stupid. Care at all, if I could. I felt very alone. Awkward. Should I go up to see someone? Just start speaking? It didn't feel my appearance would be welcomed by here. Not at a party like this. It was amazing how you felt so lonely in a room full of people. Suddenly I heard a really familiar voice. Don't walk away, man. Do you think I have survived a have a cracker? You're crackers. Turning, I saw Papa D, wonderfully grumpy Papa D, over by the large vase. He had a corner of the waitstaff and was eating directly of the tray. I quickly skipped over to him. He was too distracted by the food to notice my appearance, so I said, "Hi there, Papa D." The man startled, and then began coughing, spitting a few splings of pastry toward the poor, covering waiter. Papa D turned to look at me. "Just like you appear at dinner. Are you trying to kill me?" "No, of course not." I was grinning, though. How could I mess with this old grump man? But eventually I did. "I didn't know you'd be at this party." "Well, I didn't know. I'll be here either. Super internal politics." I noticed then that he wasn't even wearing an evening suit, but one of his regular work suits. I liked that. It made me feel more at ease. "Internal politics?" I asked it. "When the top branch isn't impressed by the numbers, gonna keep an eye on their investment. It's ridiculous." The waiter started to ease himself away as Papa D was distracted by me, but at his moment caught Papa D's attention. "Don't you dare," said Papa D, grabbing another salon puff violently off the tray. He shook his head and he swallowed. "Disgusting." "What numbers?" I asked it. I smiled at the waiter politically, trying to mirror Allison in the gesture, though I think it made Kress far more pain than hers. I took a puff of trade, half expecting Papa D to block me, but he smiled me the privilege. "Your ship, I told him. No one wants cartoons in the evening. Who are they even trying to appeal to? But they like artist money. And Joey Drew is a salesman, that's for sure. Look, but why does it matter to you anyway?" He was glaring at me now. I find it delightful, though the content of what he was saying alarmed me a little. "Well, it's only been a week. We shall see what happens tonight," I said. "They do like to jump at the gun. You're not wrong. What time is it?" I shook my head. I looked around the room for a clock. I couldn't find anything. "I gonna say till 7:30. Then I'm gone, but the show isn't on until 8. "I'm gonna stay till 7:30, then I'm gone, but the show isn't on until 8. Papa D shook his head. "Sweetheart, if you ever think anyone here is actually gonna watch the darn thing, well, you're more naive than I took you for, and I took you for a pretty gosh darn naive. Isn't this a view party?" It didn't make sense. "It's a party, that's all everyone here wants. To mingle, to talk to the right people, to snuck up to Nathan Arch," as I clarified it for myself. "That's the man. You think any of these stiffs are gonna wanna sit and wrinkle their pretty outfits to watch some kids' cartoons?" No, I didn't think they would. Maybe Allison, definitely Allison would. But the rest of the company here, that's the feeling unlikely. "Well, Joey certainly can't convince them," I said. "Sir," said the waiter quietly. "He knows which side his bread is buttered on." Papa D grabbed another puff and then stared at the waiter, who was staring in the back. "What?" he barked it. It's 7:30, sir," replied the waiter, his voice crackling. "It's 7:30, sir," he replied the waiter, his voice crackling. "Good." Papa D grabbed the remaining puffs and stuffing them into his jacket pocket, stormed off with them, so much as a farewell. We had passed a few moments quite nicely, I had thought, but now they were over. I was back to square one, said the waiter. I looked at him. "Yes?" There was a television set up upstairs in the library for those interested. He sounded a little confident now, and I feel sorry for him. Not everyone was prepared for Papa D's encounter. "Oh, wonderful, thank you," I said. "Where do I find it?" "Up the stairs, and to the left the door will be open." He smiled and looked down at his empty tray. "I'll better get a refill." I nodded, and then realizing, said, "Wait! Can I leave this with you?" I opened my hand to reveal the destroyed napkin. He nodded, and I put its remains on the silver tray before the waiter walked in with a rather quick step out of the room. Probably wanted to avoid any other strange individuals like Papa D or me.